Welcome back to Peeling Back the Onion by Cambia Digital, where we peel back the glossy veneer of enterprise technology to reveal what's actually keeping the lights on. I'm Elijah, your host from Cambia Digital, and today we're diving into something most businesses desperately need but rarely understand: the invisible backbone of our digital economy. With me is my colleague Penelope, our resident infrastructure savant.
Delighted to be here, Elijah. You know what amuses me about the tech world? Everyone's obsessed with talking about AI, the metaverse, and whatever shiny digital trend is making headlines. But almost nobody discusses the actual highways making all of it possible. It's like raving about Ferrari's latest model while completely ignoring the fact that without roads, it's just an expensive lawn ornament.
Perfect analogy, Penelope. Today we're talking about those digital highways, specifically fiber networks and the critical infrastructure provided by companies like Zayo. And I promise we won't use the phrase digital transformation even once during this episode.
A bold promise, Elijah. Let's see if you can keep it.
Let's start with a reality check. Most executives I speak with have absolutely no idea what's actually happening beneath the surface of their internet connection. They just expect their Zoom calls to work and their cloud applications to load instantly.
The magical thinking of modern business. I was consulting with a CFO last month who was proudly showing off their new headquarters with a state-of-the-art trading floor. Beautiful space, impressive technology everywhere. I asked him about their network redundancy, and he pointed to the 2 different Wi-Fi networks they had set up.
Oh no.
Oh yes. Their entire operation, handling billions in transactions daily, was running on a single fiber connection entering the building. One backhoe operator having a bad day away from complete disaster.
The digital equivalent of building a skyscraper on toothpicks. What happened when you pointed this out, Penelope?
The blood drained from his face so quickly, I considered calling a medic. But this isn't unusual. I've walked into countless enterprises where network infrastructure is treated like plumbing, only thought about when something catastrophically breaks.
Which brings us to what companies like Zayo are actually providing. Most people hear fiber network and their eyes glaze over faster than a donut at Krispy Kreme. Break it down for us. What are we really talking about?
At its core, we're talking about the fundamental infrastructure that makes modern business possible. Zayo operates one of North America's largest fiber networks. Over 13 million fiber miles across the continent and expanding globally. But the physical fiber is just the beginning.
It's not just about having really long glass strings in the ground.
A common misconception, Elijah. The fiber itself is certainly important. It's the difference between a dirt road and an 8-lane superhighway. But what makes Zayo particularly interesting is their layered approach. They provide everything from dark fiber, where companies essentially lease the physical infrastructure and light it themselves, all the way to fully managed services with cloud connectivity and security baked in.
Let's talk real-world impact. Paint me a picture of what happens when companies get this right versus when they get it catastrophically wrong.
Let me tell you about 2 financial institutions I worked with last year. Similar size, similar business model, dramatically different approaches to their network infrastructure.
I sense an object lesson coming.
Bank A approached their network the way most companies do, as a necessary expense to be minimized. They cobbled together connections from various providers, negotiated aggressively on price, and ended up with a patchwork quilt of services with different SLAs and support teams.
The classic lowest bidder approach to mission-critical infrastructure.
Precisely. Bank B, meanwhile, worked with Zayo to design a purpose-built network with multiple redundant paths, direct connections to all major cloud providers, and guaranteed sub-millisecond latency between their trading desks. The initial investment was about 40% higher than Bank A.
I can already guess where this is heading, but tell us what happened.
One Friday afternoon, a construction crew in downtown Chicago accidentally severed a major fiber line. Bank A's primary connection went down, and they discovered their backup connection followed the exact same physical path. a shockingly common oversight. They were effectively offline for 4.7 hours,
In financial services, that might as well be a lifetime.
a very expensive lifetime. They calculated the direct revenue impact at 4.3 million, not counting reputational damage and lost clients. Bank B experienced the same outage, but failed over to a geographically diverse path within 50 milliseconds, completely invisible to their customers and trading systems.
So Bank A saved perhaps 100,000 on their network cost, but lost millions when it failed. Classic false economy.
And this isn't just relevant to financial services. We worked with a healthcare network that initially balked at Zayo's proposal for their multi-hospital connectivity. They were particularly resistant to the idea of dedicated fiber between locations.
Let me guess, they were looking at consumer-grade alternatives?
Worse, they were seriously considering using VPN tunnels over business cable connections for transferring patient imaging data between hospitals.
Please tell me someone intervened before HIPAA violations started raining from the sky.
Thankfully, yes. We conducted a simulation showing exactly how their proposed solution would perform during peak usage. When the radiologists realized they'd be waiting 3 to 4 minutes for each high-resolution scan to transfer, potentially with life-threatening conditions, they revolted and demanded proper infrastructure.
Somehow convinced themselves that digital infrastructure can be bargain basement.
Human nature. We can see buildings. We can't see packets. But this is changing as more executives recognize that network performance directly impacts every aspect of their business. The pandemic certainly accelerated this understanding when suddenly everyone's living room became a branch office.
Speaking of which, Penelope, how did organizations with proper fiber infrastructure weather the pandemic compared to those without?
Night and day difference. Companies with robust, scalable networks from providers like Zayo were able to transition to remote work almost seamlessly. Their connections to cloud services already had the necessary bandwidth and security. Meanwhile, organizations relying on consumer-grade connections and VPNs experienced what I affectionately call the Great Digital Traffic Jam of 2020.
Beautiful term. Let's talk about something that's becoming increasingly critical: cloud connectivity. Every business is using multiple cloud services now, often simultaneously. How does this complicate the network picture?
Enormously. The multi-cloud environment most businesses operate in today creates incredible complexity. A typical enterprise might be running workloads in AWS, have their CRM in Salesforce, collaboration tools in Microsoft 365, and specialized applications in Google Cloud, all while maintaining some on-premises systems.
Which sounds like a recipe for digital indigestion.
Without the right connectivity, absolutely. This is where Zayo's Cloud Link becomes particularly valuable. Instead of sending all that traffic over the public internet, which is essentially the digital equivalent of shipping your most valuable assets via crowded public transportation,
Where they might arrive eventually, possibly rifled through, if they arrive at all.
exactly that level of uncertainty. CloudLink provides direct, private connections to all major cloud providers. The difference is remarkable. Lower latency, better security, predictable performance, and often lower costs, since you're not paying premium rates for traffic going in and out of cloud environments over the internet.
Let's talk numbers, because I know our listeners appreciate concrete data. What kind of performance differences are we talking about?
One e-commerce client we worked with was experiencing average page load times of 3.2 seconds during peak periods when running through traditional internet connections. After implementing Zayo's direct cloud connectivity, this dropped to consistently under 800 milliseconds.
And the impact on their business?
For every 100 milliseconds reduction in page load time, they saw conversion rates improve by approximately 1%. The shift from 3.2 seconds to under 800 milliseconds translated to roughly a 24% increase in conversions, millions in additional revenue,
Those are the kind of metrics that make CFOs suddenly develop a keen interest in network architecture.
Indeed, the conversation shifts from how can we minimize this expense to how can we optimize this competitive advantage?
Let's switch gears slightly and talk about security. As networks become more distributed, security concerns multiply. How does fiber infrastructure play into the security equation?
It's foundational, Elijah. The first principle of network security is controlling who has access to your data pathways. Fiber, particularly dedicated fiber, gives you physical separation from other networks. It's the difference between having your own private highway versus sharing the public road system.
But isn't encryption enough to protect data, regardless of the path?
A common misconception: encryption is crucial, but it's not a panacea. When your traffic traverses the public internet, it's subject to various forms of interference, analysis, and potentially interception, even if the content itself is encrypted. Additionally, shared infrastructure means you're vulnerable to congestion and performance issues caused by other users.
So dedicated fiber essentially gives you both performance and security advantages.
Precisely. And Zayo takes this further with their managed security services. One manufacturing client was particularly concerned about industrial espionage. They had proprietary designs moving between their R&D facilities and production plants globally.
I imagine the standard VPN approach wasn't cutting it.
Not even close. They needed guaranteed bandwidth for large KD files, combined with military-grade security. Zayo implemented a global fiber network with advanced encryption, continuous monitoring, and what I particularly appreciated: physical diversity in the network paths. Their data literally travels different physical routes for redundancy.
That's a level of protection most companies don't even think to ask for.
But should, especially for critical operations. Another fascinating case was a media company producing high-budget entertainment content. The value of unreleased episodes of their flagship streaming series was estimated at over $20 million per episode in potential lost revenue if leaked.
The entertainment industry has been plagued by leaks and piracy.
Exactly why they needed something beyond conventional solutions. Zayo created a dedicated production network linking their studios, post-production facilities, and secure preview environments. The entire system operates as a closed ecosystem with no direct internet connectivity, a true air-gapped environment connected only by private fiber.
Has it been effective?
0 leaks in 3 years. Their security team calls it their digital fortress. The irony is that while the solution is technically sophisticated, it's conceptually simple. Control the physical pathways, and you dramatically reduce your attack surface.
This conversation has covered substantial ground, Penelope. Before we wrap up, any final thoughts on where network infrastructure is heading in the next few years?
The dividing line between organizations that treat connectivity as a utility versus those that see it as strategic infrastructure will become even more pronounced. With edge computing, IoT proliferation, and increasingly distributed workforces, the network isn't just supporting the business. It is the business for many organizations.
And for companies still running on inadequate infrastructure?
They'll face a growing competitive disadvantage. When your competitors can process data, serve customers, and adapt to market changes substantially faster than you can, it's only a matter of time before that impacts market share. The good news is that with providers like Zayo expanding their networks, businesses have more options than ever to build robust digital foundations.
Insightful, as always, Penelope. For our listeners who are now questioning every aspect of their network infrastructure, and rightfully so, Cambia Digital is a certified Zayo partner. We specialize in helping organizations assess their current connectivity solutions and design future-proof infrastructure that aligns with business objectives.
Without the technical jargon and sales pressure that typically accompanies these conversations.
Refreshingly straightforward. Visit CambiaDigital.com, network, assessment, or click the link below to schedule a consultation where we'll analyze your existing infrastructure and identify opportunities for improvement. Until next time, remember, your business moves at the speed of your slowest connection. Choose wisely.
And join us next week for our episode, Why Your Cloud Migration Failed. Hint, it wasn't the cloud's fault.
See you all next time on Peeling Back the Onion by Cambia Digital.